Well, of course, the
How
US
does
doesn't
the
have
US
inflation anywhere near some of these other countries be in. And how about the
How about
US?
the US?
Well, of
Well,
course,
of
the
course, the
US
US
doesn't
doesn't
have
have
inflation
inflation
anywhere
anywhere
near
near
some of
some
these
of
other
the other
countries.
countries.
However, in
However, in
June
June
of
of
2022,
2022,
um, it reached 9.1%,
9.1%,
which was the
which was the
highest rate
highest rate
in many
in many
years
years
in
in
the
the
US.
US.
And to
To
be
be
honest,
honest,
that
that
9.1%
9.1%
is
is
understated.
understated.
When I
When I
say
say
that
that
it's
is
understated, I'm
I'm
saying that
saying
in
that in
reality,
reality
it's
it's
more.
more.
So
So
when we
when we see
see
the
the official
official
rate of
rate of
inflation in the US,
inflation in the US,
we know that
we
in
know that in
reality, it's even
reality it's
higher
even higher
than what
than
they're
what
saying
they
it
are
is.
saying it.
But that
But that
9.1% was the
9.1%
highest
was
in many
highest in
years.
many years.
The rate of
The rate of
inflation has
inflation
gone
has gone
down
down this
this
year.
year. However,
However,
at
at
the
the
time of
time of
recording this,
recording this,
we still
that
have
they have
inflation.
inflation,
So
so prices
prices
are
are still
still
increasing,
increasing,
but by
but by less,
less,
right?
right? Because
Because
we
we
don't
don't
have
have
deflation
deflation
yet.
yet.
Prices aren't
Prices
going
aren't
down
going down
yet,
yet,
but
but
they're going
they're going
up
up
at
to a
a slower
slow
pace
pace
than they were
than they
a year
were
ago,
a year
for
ago.
example.
For example,
But the
but
US
the
has
US
dealt
had
with
dealt
a
with
lot
a
of
lot of
inflation
inflation
recently,
recently,
and the
and
percentage
the
in the
percentage
US
in the
might
US
not
might
seem
not
very
seem
high to
very high
you,
to you,
depending
depending
on where you
on where you
live,
live,
but
but
people
people
definitely feel
definitely
it
feel it.
here. And lastly,
And
what do
last,
people
and
do
lastly, what do
during
people do
periods of high
to high
inflation
inflation
or
or
hyperinflation?
hyperinflation?
Well, one
Well, one
thing
thing
is
is that
that
people who live
people
in a
who
country
live in a country
with
with
very
really high
high
inflation,
inflation,
they tend
they
to
tend to
immediately
immediately
exchange
exchange their
their
money.
money
One,
once they've earned
they
it
are earned
for
it for
another
another
more
more
stable
stable
currency
currency
or for
or
precious
for
metals.
precious metal.
When I use the
When I
phrase
use the
precious metals, I'm
precious
talking
metal, I'm
about
talking
things like
about things
gold
like
and
gold
silver,
and silver,
right?
right?
So, for
So,
example,
from the
in
in
Turkey right
Turkey
now,
right now,
if
if
people
people
receive
receive
their
their
income
income
in the
in
local
the local
currency,
currency,
they might
they
try
might
to
try to
immediately exchange
immediately
that
exchange
for
that for
US
US
dollars
dollars,
or for
for
euros
euro,
or for gold,
for
for
gold,
example,
for example,
so that
so
they
that
don't
they don't
lose
lose
purchasing
purchasing
power,
power,
so that
so that
their
their money
money doesn't
doesn't
deteriorate
deteriorate
by
by
tomorrow
tomorrow
or next week.
or next week.
They want
They
something
want
more
something more
stable, right?
stable, right?
So that's
So
something
that's something
that
that
happens
happens
in many
in many
places.
places,
But
but
in
in a
a place like the
place like
US,
US,
it doesn't
it doesn't
happen the
have
same
the
way
same way
because
because
we
we have
have the
the
US
US
dollar,
dollars,
and
and
so the
so
US
the US
dollar
dollar
is
is
generally
generally
considered to be
considered to be
the
safe,
safe, stable
stable
currency
currency
that
that
other
other people
people look to for refuge.
for refuge.
When I say
When I
the
say
word
the word
refuge,
refuge,
I'm talking about
protection
protection and
and
safety,
safety, right?
right? So
So we
we
have the
have this currency
currency
already.
already.
So when
So
we
when we
deal
deal
with
with
inflation,
inflation,
we
we
can't
can do
do the
the
same
same
thing
thing
with
with
another
another currency,
currency the way that other
other
countries
countries do
do
this,
this, because
because
the
the
people in
people
those
in those
countries might
countries might
exchange
exchange
their
their
currency for
currency or
dollars,
dollars,
but
but
we
we
already
already
earn
earn
dollars.
dollars.
And so
And
most
so
people in
most
the
people in the
US
US
don't
don't
really have
really
this
have the
option.
option.
We
We
don't
don't
think
think about
about
exchanging
exchanging our
our
currency for
currency for
another
another
more
more
stable one,
stable one.
right? We can
We can
exchange our
exchange our
dollars for
dollars
precious
for
metals, of
precious
course,
metal, of
and some
course.
people do
And
that,
some people do that,
but we
but
don't
we don't
really
really
have the
have an
option
option
of
of
exchanging
exchanging
our
our
dollars
dollars
for
for
a
a
more
more
stable
stable
currency,
currency,
because we have the
because we
currency
have the
that
currencies
people
that people
usually
usually
view
view
as the safe
as a safe
currency, right?
currency,
The safest
right? The
and
safe and
most
most
stable one,
stable one,
right?
right?
So
So
that's a
that
little
a
bit
little
different
bit
in the
different
US.
in the US.
And a lot of
And a lot of
times
time
during
during
periods of
period
really
of
high
very high
inflation,
inflation,
the
the
government
government in
in
that
that
country
country
will
will make it illegal
illegal to
to
exchange over the certain
exchange over a certain amount of money for dollars or euros or whatever. And if that's the case, then people create a black market for dollars or euros or whatever. So people exchange this illegally because they need a more stable currency. And if the government doesn't let them have one, then they'll get it illegally. So that's another thing that happens. Something else that happens is that people try to invest their money quickly in something that's going to give them a real return. They don't want to just hold their currency. They might exchange it for another currency or precious metals, or invest it in something that will gain in value to a greater degree than the rate of inflation. And so they might try to buy something, some asset, so that they can beat inflation. By the way, the word asset in this context refers to something that you own that can produce a positive economic effect for you. For example, like owning a property, right, or owning a stock. So people might try to find assets that will grow faster in value than the rate of inflation, right? And another thing people might do is buy things now rather than later, because they know that prices will increase in the future, so they buy things now. And in really extreme examples of hyperinflation, people will just immediately buy things once they get paid in their local currency. They might immediately buy milk or buy rice or buy something, because they know that it's better to do that right now than wait a week when the price is higher, right? And if they buy something real now, it will increase in value very, very fast, right? And one last thing that might happen is that people might leave their country, unfortunately, and look for a more stable situation. So that's what might happen in times of very high inflation. All right, I think that's all for today. Hopefully this topic was interesting for you. Hopefully it was educational. And I know it's not the funnest topic, but I think it's interesting because a lot of us are dealing with this now. Remember that you can sign up for my new podcast if you want to hear real conversations in English. With the transcript, of course. The link is in the episode description below this episode. And you can also join my normal membership if you want my specialized training. And if you want my advanced podcast episodes, you can become a Listening Time family member. And if you like this podcast, please share it with anyone else you know who's learning English. And please give it a 5-star rating and write a review. All right, thank you for listening to this episode, and I'll talk to you on the next episode of Listening Time.